toured yesterday, which I wish I would have.
I'll be like, come on your next
so many things, yes. Definitely the next Saturday. So where we're at right now, just as a quick recap for you, we went through already kind of like protocols and expectations in the office. We went through how our leads come in, what to do with the lead. We went through our scripts. We went through how to fill out a purchase agreement package. We went through how to set a showing. We went through how to negotiate through highest and best. And now we have got our offer accepted and we are getting all of our contracts signed. And we are making sure that once we get all those signatures, that you send it back to management@eliterealtmi.com so that we can look it over and make sure you didn't miss anything. So for your first 5 offers, your first 5 listings, and your first 5 closings, you send over your docs to us before you send them out to clients or agents so that we can go over them for you and make sure that you haven't missed anything. So once that offer is accepted, it's important to drop it back by us. That way, if maybe the other agent did cross something out and you didn't catch it, we can catch that for you before it goes into the mortgage company. Because if you miss it and it goes to the mortgage company, they don't know to let you know. And then you may be at the closing table and the other agent's going, no, my client didn't say that they would come to that. We crossed it out. And you say, well, we didn't initial and now we don't have an actual contract. And your client paid for an appraisal and an inspection and went through all of this stuff, right? So drop those back by us. Again, email it to management@eliterealtmi.com so it goes to both me and Andy. Advise your client once you get it back and it's in writing and we looked it over, we said good to go, then you want to send those contracts to your client so they have a copy of their signed docs. Make sure you do that part. Some agents forget to send them back to their clients, and then if a problem comes up and your agent calls me, the first thing I say is pull out your contracts that your agent sent. So you want to make sure that they have them. You will put a copy of all, and you can either put a physical copy, or if you like to just stay paperless, you can email a copy, but once everything's all done, you'll get them over to Kim. Kim keeps all of our documents in a paperless cloud for us. So you always want to send anything you get signed over to Kim. So her email, you can just email her either at front desk at Elite or Kim B at Elite. And you guys all have a directory in your skills pack. I know I have to send Amanda, you another skills pack. That's in my email. I'll get to that. And then if you hadn't turned in the EMD yet, for any reason, at this point in time, some people put on their purchase agreement EMD to be deposited 24 hours after seller acceptance. If that was the case, then at this point in time, you would want to make sure that EMD was in my bin in the office so that we can get that into the escrow account. And then you want to set up your inspection. Now make sure when you set up your inspection that all the utilities are on. So if it's a bank-owned home, sometimes there won't be electric or gas or water on, or it may look like they're not on, but sometimes the agents just turn them off because they have to pay the bills for the utilities. So it might be as simple as just going in and turning the knob or turning on the box downstairs or whatever the case may be. But make sure all the utilities are on for your inspection. If there is plumbing problems, like maybe there's pipes that are busted or things of that nature, ask your home inspector if they're able to do an air pressure test. So they can run air through those pipes to see like where the breaks are at and how bad it is, and you know if it's going to be something that your client wants to take on or not take on, if that should come up. Make sure you remind your clients at this point in time, once again, you know, we talked to them about it in the buyer's consult in the beginning, and then we want to talk to them about it again right now. Hey guys, so we got our offer accepted. We're going to be going into underwriting. Make absolutely positively sure you don't open any credit cards, you don't go and get a new vehicle, you don't get new furniture, you don't change your bank accounts, you don't change your jobs, you don't change anything about your financial status, you do not get your credit pulled, you don't do anything. From here until after closing, we've had people even the day before closing go and buy their furniture, and then it ruins their closing, they can't close. So those loan officers and those underwriters are checking their paperwork all the way till the day of closing. So it's important to reiterate it to them again. You can never say it enough and remind them enough. You want to make sure also at this point in time that they are abreast of their inspection time period. So you would have talked about it when you signed the purchase agreement. Hey, you have 5 days for inspection. Now your offer is accepted. Our clock is ticking. Our clock is ticking. Because if we go past that inspection time, they could lose their earnest money deposit. So it's very important. Again, on our website, there's the vendors list, and the vendors list has 2 or 3 different home inspectors that we use very often. We use Jay Letzman, he's very good. Pros, Home Inspection by Pros, they do a really good job. TJ, he has another one, Bob Jeffries, that does a really great job for us. And again, this is another time where we can remind them. We talked to them about it in the Buyer Must Knows, and we'll remind them again. Remember how we had told you in our consult that usually on average, you're going to find between 10 and 20 things that are wrong with the house in your home inspection. It's totally normal. These houses were built 40, 50, 60 years ago. There's going to be some things. This inspection is just a point in time that kind of gets you a little honey-do list of when to expect to be replacing the heating unit or the roof or things like that. So it's just to set you up with what you'll be looking at in the future with the home. So don't let it worry you that it's lengthy and it's big. Knowing the differences between different inspections is important at this juncture as well, because they may say, well, isn't the city going to do a city inspection? And depending on the city, some cities do city inspections. Basically, those are more of your Wayne County cities. So like Westland does city inspections, Garden City, Livonia, but they are looking for things that are going to be city certification items. They're not looking for, you know, how much age you have left on the roof. They're looking for, is your stuff up to code? So one does not preclude the other. Just because you're getting a city inspection doesn't mean you should automatically not get a private home inspection. The private home inspection is going to be much more thorough than anything else that you get. Thank you. Yep. So your private home inspector, he's going to have his ladder with him. He's going to go up in the attic. He's going to go on the roof. He's going to go in the crawl space. None of your city inspectors are going to do any of that. They're going to walk around and look at the house and write up this little list. So city inspections are usually set up by the sellers and the listing agent. So if you're on the buyer side, you don't really have to stress about that too much unless it says in the MLS ticket that the city inspection is going to be the responsibility of the buyer. That is super hot coffee.
I was just saying, I don't know how you just did that. Can we go back to the agent pays for utilities? That blew my mind. You said that in the beginning.
Yeah, so as an REO agent, when I list a property for a bank, I have to turn on utilities for the bank. Yep, and I have to pay and wait to get reimbursed for those utilities. Yep. Luckily, there's not that many REOs around anymore. It used to be something where it was really big and you had to have quite a bankroll to be able to take care of them. That's not a thing anymore.
So, okay, auction, like homes for auction and the REO, what's the difference?
Nothing. They're just different because there's just different ways that they do it. So some of my REOs start out in an auction. So it's just different companies that are selling them. So they may say, okay, we're going to put, you know, what happens is when you go into default on your mortgage, about 6 months before they're going to foreclose, they're going to have an agent like myself. They're going to send me an email and say, hey, we have a property coming up in Birmingham. And we want you to go and check the property, see if it's occupied, see if there's any repairs that need to be done, if the yard's being maintained, blah, blah, blah. Do you want this asset? And I'll be like, yeah, of course I want this asset. So what will happen is I have to go out to that asset every single month. Some companies I have to go out every single week and monitor that asset. So is someone in there? Are they maintaining the exterior? Are they maintaining the yard? Is, you know, are like securing their asset, that home. So once it gets to, when you're 3 months down, your home goes into the foreclosure process. When you're going into that 4th and 5th month, they can start a sheriff's sale. And then in Michigan, you have 6 months rights of redemption after that sheriff's sale to redeem your property and pay the back pay and all the things that are owed. If you get to that 6 months rights of redemption and you haven't paid, then the bank's going to go to court and say, okay, they haven't paid. We went through their 6 months rights of redemption. We want to reclaim our asset. And that's when the judge will say, okay, you got 30 days to get out, or you got 60 days to get out, and you go through the eviction process. And then if you still haven't got out, then myself and the sheriff will come to your house and they take all your stuff out and put it on the curb. So it's about a 9 to 12 month process from the first time that you don't pay. So once we get...
Is it paid in full and you have the chance to buy it back?
When you're during your redemption period, they have like a specific payoff. You don't have to pay off your full mortgage in full, but now it's like all your back payments plus all of these fees they've added on top.
I mean, how are you going to get a loan? Unless it's cash.
Yeah, you'd have to have the cash to redeem your property in redemption period. But not many people redeem in redemption
So I had a neighbor across the street went through the same thing,
Mhm.
and then he went through redemption, and his dad was going to give him the money, and they said no.
Mhm.
I mean, because it was 100,000 less than what he owed,
Yeah.
and the bank said no, we can't let a family member.
Mm. If they wanted a
Or the
non-arm's
family
length,
member was going to buy
was
it.
gonna buy it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and they don't allow that, I guess.
Yeah, they might have been trying to do like a short sale. So with short sales where you're paying off actually like you can, that's usually what people utilize that redemption period for, is to short sale their home, back when there used to be a lot of short sales. And when you're short selling your home, you know, you're selling it for less than what you owe the bank. And so they only allow that if it's what's considered an arm's length transaction, which means somebody who is not a family member of yours. And you have to sign like an arm's length affidavit saying, I swear that we're not related in any way, shape, or form. So that's probably what happened with that scenario. So after that it gets foreclosed and they put the stuff out, then the bank decides, okay, like it's going to be my listing. They may say, well, we're going to put it in auction before we have you put it on the MLS to see if it'll sell faster at the auction. So I would still get paid as a listing agent, but they're going to put it up on like a website like Hudson and Hudson, or one of those, and put it up with like a whole stack of properties that are going to go up for auction. And then if it doesn't work at the auction, then they're going to come back and say, okay, now you listed on the MLS and we'll let it go from here. Now, a lot of times they, like the one I have over on Centralia and Redford right now, they put that one in auction, but they had it priced like so high, and so it never sold at auction. So now it's on the MLS and I've already dropped the price twice. So sometimes the banks don't listen to the agent. That's crazy. So it's like you've had me sitting here like running out to this house over and over and over again for the last year, and I tell you it's only worth $29,900, and you want to start the listing at $54,000, like you're just wasting your time. And then you have to try to make them understand that like, hey, this is Michigan. So like the longer you wait, the worse this house is getting, because it's getting snowed on and rained on and people breaking into it, and it's got water damage, so then it's growing mold and all these things.
Now it's not even 29.
Right. So yeah. So when I first started the listing, when I first started going out to it, I had priced it at like 45 or 43 or 42, something like that, low 40s. And now it is, I'm like, this house is not worth more than like 29,000 at this point because of the weather and what it's went through. And it's went from summer, and I kept telling them like, you can't start it at 54. It's not going to go, like this is in the market. But the thing is the banks are in other states, so they don't know how things work here. They don't understand like our weather and stuff like that. Like there's been houses that are in like really bad parts of Detroit, and they're like, well, just go up and knock on the door. And I'm like, what? One lady actually was like, just take some balloons, because I was like, sometimes I have one of my agents, Billy, he'll go out and check them. And I was like, he knocks on the door, they don't answer. And she's like, well, take some balloons. I'm like, let me explain Detroit to you, okay? Nobody's taking some balloons up to a door to try to get some squatters to answer the door. Like, I don't want them to open the door. And then, like, I had one over in Livonia, and I was like, and she's like, well, you need to find out who's there. Like, just call the police station and have them go there. I'm like, Livonia PD is not going to find out who lives in your house. So banks have very unrealistic expectations because they're not in the city and in the state, and they don't understand how things work here. So when you get, and I only tell these stories because when you get out there, you guys probably won't list REOs, but when you get out there and you run into these houses like this, now you know why they're overpriced for what's going on in them or things of that nature. Because sometimes you get an asset manager that, you know, she lives in Omaha with like a pig farm and she has no clue what's happening here. And I'm like, look, lady, like I'm not going there. So yeah, so that's a whole situation.
So we had went to a house on the east side, and she got mad. When we got to the house, the door was already kicked open,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like, oh my god.
Really?
Yeah, but then listen to what they did.
And so they wanted like 39 for the house.
Mm-hmm.
But you go to the back in the bedroom, like in the living room, you first walk in, you can see that.
Nice.
No, this is a big old hole.
Water.
Right there. Yeah.
Probably water damage and it went
So
through.
then you go to the back, you go to the back bedroom, you can see the sky. They're like, really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
And they went in the
yeah,
basement.
we went.
That was not smart.
No, you know what though, when I first started real estate, I was not smart too. I was, 22 years old and thought I was like invincible, and I by myself would walk into houses where the door was kicked in.
Really?
So, you're so stupid when you're like young. I look back now and I'm like, I was absolutely crazy.
I wish I knew you was young as an excuse.
Yeah. And I would never do that now. Now I don't even walk in basements at all, like even at all, because that's silly. But
I don't want to get off topic, but that brings up a great question.
Mhm.
What if somebody wants you as their agent? They call here and they're in a not desirable neighborhood,
Mhm.
and you don't want to deal with it. Are you obligated?
You
How
can
does
send
that
an
work?
email out to agents@eliterealtymi.com and say, hey, I have a lead that's looking in, Romulus. Does anybody want the lead? So if there's anywhere that you don't want to show and you have a lead that comes in, just send it out to the office. We have people in the office that'll show everywhere, and we have agents that carry and they don't mind going to whatever neighborhood. So, yeah. Poor Andy, he's been chased down the street by dogs and crazy people.
No, I mean, like, let's say a house next to a dump. You know you're not going to sell it.
I did sell a house next to a dump. So here's what's so funny. So funny you use that example. I got an REO house, and it was like a 1900s farmhouse, and it was out by the dump down by the airport. And I get it, and it's disgusting. Like, I didn't even go inside the house. It was so bad, and it was just like run down. And then my agent Billy, who does my inspections, he went in and he's like, dude, they didn't even, like, they were just using like a bucket for their toilet in there, and there was nothing inside. Like, it was down to the studs inside. So the house was garbage. There was the dump on one side, and there was a house of like a hoarder on the other side. And the bank's like, oh, what are we gonna list it for? I'm like, nothing. Like, how are we buying this house? So they let me list it for like, I forget what it was, like 15 grand or something. I got listen, it went crazy because it was 5 acres. So it went nuts. Like, it looked like we had, I think, 150 phone calls in 24 hours
Really?
on this house. And like, my friend messaged me on Facebook, and he took a picture, and it was just like people, it was like a parking lot there of people coming to see the house. And I ended up with like 40 or 50 offers. And I was like, the bank's like, you said nobody would buy this house next to a dump. I'm like, would you buy a house next to a dump?
That's why the bank
Were
doesn't
you
listen to
curious?
you.
It was crazy. It ended up going for $40,000 over the listing
But
price.
the land is next to a dump on order.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with the
No,
land?
no. We were looking for a house. There was
Uh-huh.
one house. The house was trash. I would have, but it was on a nice land. You know the house?
Yeah.
They had trails and all that stuff. Yeah, it was a little ranch White House that was just tore up. I'm like, well, look at the land. We can have the land.
Yeah.
She was like, nope. The house is just like, forget about the house. We don't demolish the house. It's the land.
That's what people were. They were like, it was the acreage. And actually, I think I said it was 10 acres. It was 10 acres.
It's the
That's
land.
a lot of acres.
Mm-hmm. It was 10 acres. So they wanted it for the land. And some people were like, well, you can hunt on the land. And then there was people that wanted to grow on the land. Now people can grow.
Okay.
And nobody's going to be bothering them because there's nobody in there.
I don't want whatever they grow next to a dump.
But people don't know where it's grown. Yep. So set your inspections, make sure your utilities are on. That's what we were getting at.
If they're not shut off, if they're shut off by the city, you gotta get with the listing agent and have the city come back out and turn them back on.
Yes. And know that, like, if the water is shut off, sometimes that can take some time to get turned back on. I had a house in Livonia where the water was shut off by the city, and there was a crack in the pipe by where the city's entrance and the house hookup was. And it took me like 2 weeks to get that water turned back on. So if you run into that where the utilities are taking a long time to get turned back on, because like in Inkster too, they have bonds. Sometimes you have to pay on certain utilities on certain addresses. So if you run into that, just make sure that you, as the buyer's agent, get an extension on your private inspection contingency period. Because if your period's only 5 days, you want to send over an extension for however long the listing agent is saying it's going to take for them to get on those utilities, so that you don't want your period to run out and then you never even got to do what you needed to do. So you always have to have everything in writing too. So even if they're like, oh, my client will be okay with it, be like, okay, well, I still need you guys to sign this addendum. And it's just, we have a blanket addendum on our website, and you can just type right on there, like buyer and seller agree to extend the inspection period to the state. Or you could even put like 5 days after all utilities get turned on, and then that would be your catch-all so that you don't have to keep re-signing. Yeah. This is a really cool document, and I don't expect you guys to remember everything I'm about to say, but I do want to go through from beginning to end all the different steps and people that touch a loan, so that when your clients say, well, why is it taking so long? Why do they keep asking me for things? You understand why, and you can explain it to them. I kind of use the funny verbiage, like I'm like, yeah, guys, you're buying a house, not a hamburger, you know, like this is gonna take some time.
Yeah, like 10 times.
Yeah. So when a loan, because I worked in the wholesale lending portion of things, I can explain exactly like how many people touch the loan and how it goes through the process. So just to walk you through it real quick so you get a bird's eye view, and again, I don't expect you to remember all of these steps, but a loan application. So when you come and you say, I'm gonna get pre-approved for a house, right? You might even just do it over the phone, and you give them your information and they pull your credit and they give you a pre-approval. And that is based on purely your credit and your income. Okay, nothing else. So they're saying you have the credit and you have the income to get a house. Now you get this address and you say, okay, now I'm going to formally apply for a mortgage. And that's when they ask you for all those documents all over again. You need your bank statements, you need your pay stubs, you need, you know, whatever else they ask you for, divorce decrees, bankruptcy discharges, whatever the case may be. And you probably would sit with a loan officer and fill out that 1003. And that loan officer is going to take all of those paperworks and they're going to give it to a loan processor. And then that loan processor is going to make a package out of your file, and they're going to send it to a wholesale lender. Okay, so on the retail side of things, you have loan officers and processors, and then they send it over to a wholesale lender. So that's going to be like, say, your HSBC Bank or one of those Flagstar or Chase or whoever your wholesale lender is going to be. That wholesale lender is going to intake that file at registration, and they're going to assign it to an underwriter. Now, an underwriter is going to go through, and they're going to look at each one of the paperwork, and they're going to say, okay, for us to give this money, they need to do this, 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 give us this, 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 give us this, 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 this. Okay, awesome. Then the file goes over to an account manager that like registers it all in the system, and she sends out that approval back to that processor. And then the processor goes to the loan officer, and the loan officer comes to your client and says, I need all of this stuff. So then they get that stuff, and it goes all the way back through that. The loan officer, the processor, the account manager, back to the underwriter. Underwriter looks at it, says, okay, I'm good with all of this. And then it gets packaged up, and it gets sent out into Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or the people that are actually lending the money. So then it has to go through that whole process again there of registration, another underwriter, another account manager, and they say, yep, we're going to back this loan. We're happy with it. Now, in the meantime of all of these sendings and all of these people, things expire. So every 30 days, your bank statements expire. And then depending on how often you get paid, if you get paid every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks, your pay stubs expire. So that's why you're constantly getting asked for more pay stubs, more bank statements, because then it goes through that wholesale lending and they say, yeah, we'll back this loan. And then it has to come back through and they have to be okay with it. So once they do that, and then you actually get your clear to close, at the same point in time, you have title work. Title work it's getting registered, it's getting an account manager. It has to be underwritten through an attorney's office usually. So that's why when you look at title work, it's gonna have 2 different people on there. And then you have homeowners insurance. So homeowners insurance, same thing. You have an insurance agent, and then they send it out to an underwriter, and they get that clue report, which I talked to you guys about yesterday. Have you ever heard of the clue report? So a clue report is like a Carfax for your house. It's a report that's ran, and it says every claim that's ever been made on 123 Apple Street. So if 123 Apple Street's ever been flooded, on fire, burglarized, or anything else that's gone through courts, cops, or an insurance agency, that's on that clue report. So you have the title company working, you have those lenders working, you have the homeowners insurance company working, and then you have an appraiser that goes out. And so the appraiser now, it used to be like, I as the loan processor would order the appraisal. That's not how it is anymore. Now the wholesale lender, who's totally away from all the loan officer and the processor and all the people, they order it from another company because they don't want all those fake appraisals coming on and people being able to influence the value. So now you have a total another company doing the appraisal. And then you and your client are doing the inspection. So you have all these different walls that are going on together. Now, if the appraisal goes out, the appraiser goes out and something's wrong, and they send the appraisal in and say, hey, it's subject to painting the deck because it's FHA and there's peeling paint on there. Then it has to get started all over again, right? The seller has to paint the deck. The appraiser has to go back out there. and it goes through that process. So all these people have to get to, we're happy. Title work has to be clear of all liens. Homeowners insurance company says we have a good clue report on a good house, we're going to insure it. Appraiser says, okay, there's no more problems with the house. It appraises at this value with no other terms. Inspection, we're good. We've negotiated through any problems we had. We're happy. And then all those documents are at the lender's office, and you have the retail people be happy, the wholesale people be happy, and the secondary market be happy that we're going to back it before you get that clear to close. And then once you get that clear to close, then they go through and do verbals on everything. And they call your work and say, do they still work here? And they run your credit update and say, did they pull any more credit? And they kind of once over everything. And then you actually get to go to the closing table with the title company. So it's all those boxes and all those people doing that. So it's like you usually have between 100 to 125 people that touch a loan file before it goes to closing, which is insane. So that's why it takes so long. That's why it's, you know, a frustrating, stressful process to some people, because you have so many different things happening and all you can control in this world is yourself. So it's like, I have no control. Like there was an agent that has been emailing me like, is this loan going to be clear to close on Monday? It's for like one of my agent's clients. And I'm like, I don't know if your loan's going to be clear to close on Monday. Like I don't work at the mortgage company. I can tell you that Veronica talked to loan officer and the loan officer said it should be. But that loan officer doesn't work at wholesale lending, which is who's going to send the money anyway. So again, I don't expect you guys to remember all that, but it's good to know the background of how it all works. So when they're like, what's taking so long? You can be like, look, there's a lot of people that are involved in this decision-making process. And it's all for your best interest. That's why I tell them, like, this is why it goes through all these steps, so that when you get those keys, you don't ever have to worry about somebody coming up and knocking on your door saying, you know, I have interest in this house, or I didn't get paid and I was supposed to off this house. Nobody's going to come and bother you anymore. Like, it's your house, free and clear. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You just pay your mortgage payment and you're good to go, right? So that's important. And it's important because when you go to resell the house, you know you won't have any problems. You got clear mortgage, you got clear title, everything's what it's supposed to be, all the I's have been dotted and T's have been crossed. That's always for your best interest, that it takes a little bit longer to get that. Any questions?
And the inspections, you
Yes.
recommend that we are present when we're buyer's agent?
So
Both of those?
you guys as the buyer's agent must be at home inspections. You must be at closings. The appraisal, sometimes the appraisal the buyer's agent cannot be at because they don't want you influencing the value. Sometimes some listing agents will meet the appraiser at the house and say, hey, just wanted to let you know, these are the comps that I used when I was deciding the value. If it's helpful, use them. If not, no problem. And some appraisers will be grateful and they'll take a look at them and they'll run them. And some won't. They'll be like, whatever, I know what I'm doing with my job. So it's kind of up to you and kind of the style that you get into and each scenario of the house. Like some houses are easy to comp. Like every house is a 3-bedroom brick ranch. So you wouldn't need to do that. But if you have like that white elephant house where your house is the best house in the neighborhood and all the other neighborhood houses are crappy, you may want to give that appraiser some insight of why you feel like, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, you just put it out there as like, hey, hope this is helpful. If not, no big deal. But I wanted to give you these so you could kind of see where our train of thought was. And they'll be like, oh, okay, cool. So, any other questions? So every single one of our packages and every single thing you do, there's a checklist that goes with it. So you have the assurance of, I didn't miss any steps. So sometimes agents will keep emailing me and they'll be like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And I'll be like, go into your skills pack and look at your quick glance buyer sheet because it tells you what's next, what's next, what's next.
Note to self.
So you can ask. I'm always here for all questions and I'm always here to help, but it may help your anxiety level if you're a high anxiety person to just print this out with every single offer and just put it as your cover sheet and just walk yourself through it. And it goes from that call intake buyer consultation step that we talked about. Are they pre-approved? Did you get their proof of funds? Did you set up their real comp auto email? You went out and showed, you wrote their offer, you negotiated, you got their offer, you did the inspection, you went to the inspection, the buyer signed the inspection release contingency, you sent it to the listing agent, The buyer's agent sent the final package to the loan officer. The buyer agent finds out who the title company is from the listing agent and lets loan officer know. Buyer's agent status is with the loan officer. So see, it even says like, these are your jobs as the buyer's agent, right? Average mortgage deal takes 45 days to close. Average cash, 2 weeks. You get the clear to close from the loan officer or the title company, and then the listing agent is going to schedule a closing. So this even tells you like whose job is what throughout this process, and you can kind of check as you go through. So utilize this. It's right in your package, and I would pull it out for every single deal so you don't miss anything.
So like these, when you have like CRM, CD, LO, I saw a glossary, so it'll tell me what some of those things.
Yep, a LO is your loan officer. So that's who's doing the mortgage. Here, again, we use Summit Funding. So our buyers agents, the most loan officer you're going to talk to probably will be Greg Goddard, and he's in this first office right here. So whenever you walk in and you see a guy in this first office, that's Greg. Stop in and say hi to him. He'll be your regular loan officer. His information, I don't know if his information is on the directory or not. If it's not, you can email me and I'll get it over to you if you haven't talked to him yet or got his information yet. The LO is loan officer. CD is closing disclosure. That's the final document that you look at that has all the numbers at closing. It used to be called a HUD settlement statement for anybody who bought a house before 3 years ago. So that closing disclosure, the CD that has everything on it. What other ones did you not know? C to C is clear to close. CD is closing disclosure. BA is buyer's agent. LO is loan officer. CRM is client relationship manager. That's your Lions desk, which is in your Real Comp. Did you go to your Real Comp class yet? Did they teach you about Lions desk?
I think so.
No. Lions desk is a new addition to Real Comp, so I was curious if they started teaching it in class or not. Or
No, I take
class.
that back. My real comp is the 31st. I went to the.
You went to GMAR. Okay, you'll learn a lot at Real Comp. You don't really learn much. at
GMAR was all right.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you learn anything at it?
I noticed they only have classes twice
Good.
a month for new,
GMAR does.
yeah,
Okay.
it's like, oh, okay, so better.
And they're huge classes.
It's like
I mean,
the 12th and 2 weeks
huge,
after that.
50, 60 people.
Really? Okay, so I need to register for that.
And last time I went to a Real Comp one, it was much smaller. They had like little classrooms where you're each at a computer, so it wasn't as monumentous as that.
Oh, the GMAR?
No, Real Comp.
I didn't do Real Comp.
So you should get some more one-on-one attention probably at the Real Comp one. Inspections. So again, you want to make sure all your utilities are on for your inspection. You always want to give them those 2 to 3 inspectors off of our site. Are they able to Google and get their own inspectors? Absolutely, yes. That is totally fine. Some people will say, well, can I just have my grandpa inspect it? If you want to have your grandpa inspect the house, that is fine. However, if you find something and you want to use it to go back as a negotiation point, they're going to ask for a copy of the inspection report. So if grandpa isn't making you an inspection report, that can be, bad for you because you won't have it to give, and then the seller won't want to negotiate because you didn't have an actual inspector out there. Now, also know there's no licensing for inspectors. People think like, oh, it has to be a licensed, insured inspector. There isn't any licensing for inspectors. That's not actually a thing. So I could go be an inspector right now if I want.
Here's the cop out in the wintertime in Livonia or wherever you hire an inspector. Roof, it's going to say unable to evaluate. It's a pool, unable to evaluate. Anything outside, they're not going to evaluate. They're going to get taken advantage of. My daughter got taken advantage of in the wintertime. She bought a house in Livonia.
Yeah, that's why it's also good to use our inspectors because we know they're going to take care of
But
the
they can't
clients
look at
and
a
do a
roof.
good job.
There's snow on it.
Yeah, if there's snow on it, you
So we'll buy a house in the
can't.
winter.
Yeah, it is tougher in the winter. It does pose some additional roadblocks. Once the client picks what inspector it is, you schedule your inspection on RealComp just like you schedule your showing. So you go to showing time and you schedule it as an inspection instead of as the showing. Once your inspection results come back, again, you want to make sure you take that inspection contingency addendum from the purchase agreement package with you to the inspection and have them decide which way they want to go and sign it, and then get that over to the listing agent because we're on that time clock. So you want to make sure once you send it to the listing agent, email them, call them, text them, and say, hey, did you get it? Because if you just email it and then they didn't get it in their email for whatever reason, you may run out of time. And you're going to say, well, I sent it. And they're going to say, well, I didn't get it. So make sure you confirm. Always confirm everything in writing that they received what you sent. Especially because sometimes, I will say sometimes our email addresses don't work well with AOL email addresses. Like there's still people that use AOL email addresses. And for whatever reason, AOL and Zoho don't love each other. So sometimes they don't go through properly. If they're not satisfied with their inspection, they can counter offer. And I mentioned this yesterday. I like to give two options. And Jeff, I'll just reiterate since you weren't here yesterday. If number one, we want to remember like the inspection is meant to find structural, safety, mechanical, energy, or environmental problems. It's not meant to say, well, there was a crack in this wall, because they're going to say, well, I walked by. You walked by, you've seen the crack in the wall, right? So it has to be something that you would not be able to see when you were walking through the home if you want to go back and try to use it as a renegotiation point. But we're letting our clients know, we're setting that up that, hey, there's going to be 10 to 20 things. This is not a renegotiation point. This is just a checklist to make sure it's sound and safe. If there is something that they find, we like to try to give two options. So like say all the window seals were blown on the windows and you didn't know until the inspector came out and helped you to see how you find that out. You could say, okay, either get all the seals fixed or credit my client $3,000 at closing. Because some people will just get it fixed and some people would rather just credit the money. So we try to give them the either or of money or a fix. And make sure you write it, if you're doing a fix, with a time binding on it. So all seals will be fixed by 2 weeks from today's date. So bind it with a time, because some people have just said, seller agrees to fix the driveway, and it's 3 days before closing and the driveway hasn't been touched. And then the buyer starts freaking out. Like, oh, we're supposed to be closing. How are they going to get the driveway fixed? And the seller's going, well, I told you I'd get it fixed. I'll get it fixed before closing. And they're like, but it's 3 days. How are you going to do it? And this has happened a lot of times.
You put in there, like, if it's not fixed, then the buyer will get 5,000 credit.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the more, whenever you write in something, just make sure it's super specific. Always very specific. It's bound by time. It's specific. It's measurable. Like when we talked about writing SMART goals yesterday, it's kind of the same when you're writing addendum things, right? Like specific, measurable, attainable, reachable. So make sure those are on there. And you guys must be at the inspections. I said that a couple times. Any questions about inspections or times on that or anything like that? Make sure your utilities are on. All right. Title work. So who knows why we order title work? Anybody? Correct. Title work insures the deed of the home. So it's like homeowner's insurance for your deed of your property. So when is title work ordered? It's ordered after the inspection's cleared. Now, some good listing agents, I'll tell you, some good listing agents will already have your title work ordered and they'll already have your city inspection done and it'll be up on the MLS and you can see it before you even go out and look at the house. So like if I'm listing a house, like say in the city of Wayne, when I go to list that house, I'm gonna tell the seller, hey, order your city inspection. We need to get it back. We need to put it up so that any buyer that goes and sees the house knows what they're getting into and we're not wasting anybody's time. And I will pre-order my title work. That way, if anything comes up as a cloud, I'm already getting it taken care of. So it's already going to be done. So you get it with a good listing agent, those things will already be done. You won't have to worry about it. But if not, then it's going to get ordered after the inspection is cleared. The listing agent usually chooses the title company. We split title. We use legacy title. All of that information is in your purchase agreement package so that you can go ahead and send it over with the purchase agreement and the order form.
The title work that you said you ordered, you're ordering that on behalf of the seller, or I thought the buyer paid for the title.
Buyer. So the seller pays for the buyer's title work.
The seller pays for the buyer's
Title
So that's why you
and
can.
each person pays a closing fee. So a buyer will pay a closing fee and the seller will pay a closing fee. But the seller pays for the actual insurance for the buyer.
Okay, so that's why you were able to go and order the title work and the city inspection when you're.
Yeah, so the seller may have one title company and the buyer has a different title company. So me as the listing agent, I'm ordering my seller's title work right now. So I can see like, hey, is there any liens or clouds or anything we need to take care of? So I'm going to teach you guys how to read title work. This is what's going to come over and what you're going to see. This is the first page. This is the sales invoice cover sheet. This one's from First Centennial, so you can see at the top left it has like a call number, a file number. Then it has the property address.
Leslie, can you don't have a blow up thing on your knee.
Yeah.
It's a touch screen, you can just pinch.
Oh, you're better.
I still cannot.
Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Now we couldn't agree.
There we go. So as you can see on this one, the sales price is the same as the mortgage amount. When would be the only time the sales price is the same as the mortgage amount? What kind of mortgage would they be getting? Cash would not have a mortgage. Nope. So the only time your mortgage amount and your sales price are the same is for VA. VA is the only 100% program. So you can actually, like, one of your marketing things on Facebook might be, hey, are you a veteran? We can get you a home with no money down, because VA loans are 100% financing. So this gentleman was a veteran. So the only time you would see the sales price is the same as the mortgage is a VA loan. And if you see this and it's not a VA loan, then we know, ooh, you got a problem, okay? Remember, the title company people are just people too. So sometimes you're gonna have errors. So that's why it's important for you to know how to read this title work and you to know how to fix those problems. So if you've seen that the sales price was 204 and the loan amount was 204 and this is an FHA loan, you're gonna call them and be like, hey, the mortgage amount is incorrect on this. The mortgage amount is actually supposed to read X, Y, Z. So you can call them or email them and they'll update that for you.
It would be like 160.
Yeah, just 3.5% off of it. The FHA is 3.5% down. So whatever 3.5% off of 204 is. And then make sure the listing agent information is correct, that the co-op, which is your buyer's agent information, is correct, and then the lender that your buyer is going through is correct. Now you want to check these things because sometimes a listing may have had an offer in on it, and then that offer fell through, and now you have your offer. Sometimes some things might not have got updated. So it's important to go through and look at all these things and make sure they are correct. Underneath it, it just has standard closing fees. All title companies are usually pretty close to the exact same fees because most of them are mandated and regulated. So they don't vary company to company. Only some of the small ones, like their little junk fees, like wire fees or e-recording service fees, those are the only ones that are really going to vary from place to place. But just so you know, because I did have an agent one time, like, oh my gosh, when is all this money due? Like, nothing's paid up front for a title. Like, anything that's going to be owed for title work is going to be on the closing disclosure at closing. So when you get this, don't worry, like, oh, where's my client going to get all this money from? These are fees that are charged on the closing disclosure.
Upfront stuff is the inspection and the
Appraisal. Yep. The money out of the pocket from your client before closing will be inspection and appraisal.
So would this be part of this would be part of closing costs?
This is part of closing costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but at closing.
Yep, at close. And if they're getting concessions or things like that, then they don't have to stress that. And the loan officer is going to let them
And
know
the
how
buyer
much.
or the seller can pay that?
Buyer or the seller can pay it. Yeah. So in a normal, regular circumstance, usually the buyer has a closing fee, the seller has a closing fee, and then the seller pays the buyer's title insurance. And then they each have little junk fees, like wire fee, tax fee. Title company adds little junky fees on there sometimes. Sometimes, not all title companies. Some of them. So this is the first page of title insurance. This is your Schedule A. Okay, Schedule A is going to reiterate some of the stuff that was on that invoice. So the policy, the proposed insured, okay, so who is this insurance policy for, right? That's what title work is. It's an insurance policy. So who is the insurance policy for? It's for the, anybody? For the buyer, correct, yes. So you can see it says John and Amanda Stukel are the proposed insured. They are the buyers, so make sure the buyer's name is there. And they are purchasing the property for $204, so that's your sales price in the first one. And then the proposed loan policy is for whom? Yep. The buyer's mortgage company, right? So the title insurance is going to insure the buyer and their mortgage company. So the mortgage company is going to be for the mortgage amount. So if they were getting, this is a VA loan again, so it's 100%, but if they were getting FHA, that number would be smaller. That second number would be smaller because it's whatever the loan amount is the second number. Number 3, the fee simple owners are, who would the fee simple owners be? That would be the sellers. The sellers are the fee simple owners. They're the current owners that hold title. So for if any reason that name in there is not your seller's name, then we have a problem on title. We have a problem on title. Something's wrong. That should always be your seller's name. So you should see your buyer's name, you should see the mortgage company, and then you should see the seller's name. You should see the sales price and then the mortgage amount. And then you got your legal description at the bottom. Definitely check those legal descriptions and make sure, like if you're doing a house in Dearborn or some of the ones in Detroit, those are the main ones that you'll run into, where they may have 2 legal descriptions because some properties that are sold are a house with a lot and they have 2 separate legals, but they're one house, they're one home, and they may just be fenced in and just look like one. So watch that on your public records and your MLSs and your title work. You always want to make sure they both go together. Any questions on this page? Page 2 is your Schedule B requirements. This is going to say what needs to be done to close on this deal. So things you may see under number 5. This one's really clean. Make it bigger.
Oh my God. It's like it got smaller again.
Probably have to do.
Ooh,
That's
Too
maybe a
big.
little too big.
there you go.
No anger.
All right. So you see this one's very clean. So it just says record the new mortgage and discharge the old mortgage. But things you may see in here would be get a social security card from John Smith, because there's a million people named John Smith, so they need to verify which John Smith this is. It may say get us a bankruptcy discharge paper if somebody had bankruptcy on it. It may say there are many federal liens against John Smith because there's lots of John Smiths. Please verify his identity. There may say get a divorce decree between Sally and John because Sally and John got divorced since they've been in here. It may say pay the back taxes. So if there's back taxes, it's going to be on here. If there was a blight ticket, like if it's in the city of Detroit hands out blight tickets. Lincoln Park, I think, also hands out blight tickets where if you got trash or your grass gets too long or something like that, they'll say you're a blight to the city and they'll issue a ticket. So it may say pay blight tickets. It may say satisfy the assessment for the lights that were built. So maybe there were lights that were put in the neighborhood and then there's a bill from it that needs to be paid to be able to transfer title. So all of those things would be on here. Original death certificates. And know that any of the things that are like death certificates or a power of attorney, those have to be originals. So a lot of people that are dealing with power of attorneys, especially in like estates and stuff, they'll be like, I want to give you my original power of attorney. You have to. It has to go down and be recorded in the original form. So then you get it back. But the county needs the original form to record. They won't take a copy to record because that could have been altered.
Notarized or the raised.
Yes, yep. The seal has to legitimize it. So those are the things you'll see in here. So it's important to know how to read title work so that you can get this and go on there. Because title company's not going to call you and be like, hey, Stacy, you got to do blah, 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 blah. You have to open this up and read it to know what you have to do. So it's important to open it and read it because a lot of agents don't. They just put it in the file and then it gets 2 days before closing and the title company's like, hey, I need that POA or I need that death certificate. And you're like, why didn't you tell me? And they're like, it's on your title work we sent you 3 weeks ago. You got to read it. This is your most up-to-date and accurate tax information too. So you can see that this tax bill, sometimes if you see a giant tax amount, it's probably because it included something like lights or a water bill or something of that nature. So when you see an MLS ticket with a tax amount that just doesn't look right, go to public records and it'll say what that tax bill included. And this one included lights, $83.72. It could be some of them have crazy water bills, like a $3,000 water bill or something like that. So watch this part with the taxes and if they're paid or not paid. Now I can tell you when you're on the listing agent side, it's really important to look at this because this could be incorrect. If they hadn't got updated tax information, it could say that the winter taxes were unpaid and your client may have went and paid them. So you want to ask your client, hey, it says winter taxes are unpaid. Did you pay those? And they'll be like, yeah. Just be like, oh, can you give me the receipt? And you send over the title company and they mark them paid. But if you don't do that, then you're going to get to closing and they're going to try to collect for them again. And then you're going to have a problem at the closing table. So again, very important to watch that. And the third page isn't really anything you got to care about. This is all just legal mumbo jumbo. So really your only things you got to really care about is page 1 and page 2. Any questions about any of that? All right, cool. So we're going to switch into homeowners associations. How many of you guys have lived where homeowners associations are? One? How'd you like it?
I'm the president, so.
All right. Well, I'm glad I asked that question and I don't bash the homeowners association.
Oh, they.
Only because nobody wants it. I've done the president 8 out of 12 years. I'm still. It's a pain.
Yeah.
We have a resident that has never paid dues. And she owes us thousands. We took her to court in Westland and we had her served. Well, we paid to have her served, but she never got served. We paid for her to go to court and somehow that got dodged. But she pays her taxes.
I always wondered about that. So, like everyone in the HOA, let's say, pays to have a snowplow.
No, we just paid for the common areas and insurance.
Right, but I'm just saying, but if that person never paid, it could, like she never pays.
Yeah,
but
we
her
leaned her
house
home.
still get-
Yeah, but we leaned her home, and until she sells it or tries to get a mortgage, there's nothing we can do. But
I always
it's
wondered about
it's
that.
supposedly in foreclosure for the last 3 years. We still can't do it. So it's awful. I wish we never had a homeowner. We tried to disband it, and the city of Westland said we couldn't.
Oh,
Really? Why?
It's a pain in the butt.
Really?
why they said no, or why did he?
Yeah, why they said no,
Yeah.
that they would
Because they don't want the burden. They would have to assume all of the retention, detention ponds
Okay.
and common grounds. We had a camera every square inch. We behind the house we own. So the sewers that come from the sump pumps. And then they go to the back of the house and then they run to the retention, detention ponds. And when the sub was built, they ripped out 20 feet of topsoil. That's what they do. And then they sell the topsoil. And then they build your house on sand. Well, everything shifted and cracked. So every year we're spending thousands to have the pipes behind the houses fixed.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's been going on forever. They don't want that. They're responsible for the sewers and the streets,
Mhm.
but not behind the house from the sump pump.
Wow.
But yeah. So
See, and I never thought about the headache that way. I looked at it the other way, where I didn't want them to tell me everything I had to do
Couldn't do.
or couldn't
yeah,
do.
we still get that. I want to put a fence up. It's as long as it's not a cyclone fence.
Mhm.
You put a fence up. Just the metal ones. Those are not allowed in our stuff. You gotta have a vinyl over the fence. It's gotta be painted.
Yeah.
But when it was first built, everybody was supposed to, if you had a shed, it had to be the same color as the house.
Mhm.
Everything's got, because they didn't have homeowners for the first 10 years when it was built. It was built in 91. So until 2003, they didn't have one. So everybody did what they wanted. And by that time, it was hard to enforce, but we do have a legal right to go back, because they had a copy of the bylaws and declaration.
Mhm.
We can make them tear down a fence. We can make them tear a shed out legally.
And you just got a bunch of angry people though, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, nobody was coming to the meetings. When I became president, I said, we're going to send out a postcard. Dues are doubling. Every single person paying. And it was, I started out the meeting and I said, you know what? This was just a lie to get you.
They can't all there.
You're smart though. That's so smart.
But we have a sinking fund. It's like $100,000.
Mm.
So, where do you stop? Where do you stop the sinking fund? And when do you have too much money? And we're to the point where, dues are $125 a year. I mean, we could probably go to $25. We got too much money. I know that's not a bad problem to have, but
Well, with the
legally-
problems you have with the plumbing, I mean. it
well, we
seems
fixed
like-
most of it.
Yeah.
But
You have to do every year.
you know, there's 3 of us bound or bonded. So if the money gets stolen, it's insured. But I mean, once you get up to 150,000 in the bank, I can go and take it all out and leave. You know, it's just
Do you
too
guys
much
do
money.
like any like our sub? They just gave us a rundown of our sub, and they're like picnic $4,000. And I'm like, wow, how are you just spending $4,000 on a picnic? Like they spent like the stuff they spent on was crazy. Like the entrance sign, it said there was like $15,000 on an entrance sign. Like the entrance sign looks the same as it's looked since we moved in.
So
how did they spend $15,000
We had
on
wooden,
that?
we had wooden
Like,
signs that were repaired every 3 to 5 years. We did concrete ones. And then we have beautification committees, we have
Mhm.
garage sale committees, we have block party committees. And you get money every year, but nobody ever uses it. So it just.
They gotta use it.
Yeah, and Old Roadville Gardens, and it's just voluntary, like
Okay, yeah,
donating to,
sure.
the you know,
Yeah,
If you want
do
to.
all of that and everything that you do.
Mhm.
but eventually it's just people that donate and they get sick of it.
Yeah. My son's always spending it. They hand out flags. Like there's kids always like handing out something at the beginning of the sub, like flags at 4th of July. These bags with lights in it so Santa can find your house at
Oh,
Christmas.
yeah.
So there's like bags with lights all over. So tell your son to start spending some money. They
We
can
did
learn how to know my son spends all the money.
We were buying the solar lights, but they kept becoming missing.
Mhm.
So then we wired, you know, DTE came in, it was like $5,000 to wire, and they have boxes that, you know, we pay out of our money.
Yeah.
We pay the electricity. We never had electricity bill until last year.
Yeah.
So now we have that every month.
I wish they put some electric in
It's
my
pennies though, it's LED, it's like $5 a light per month. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So
So you're gonna bash us?
no, I just talked about what the powers of the homeowners association are. That you know exactly what we just talked about. We just talked about all of this. They can assess the mandatory dues. They maintain the common property, and they provide services for the homes, and they regulate the use of the individual and common property. So exactly what we just talked about. So real world.
And actually, that lady that we've been trying to sue and go after for 5 years, her roof completely came off. There was no roof. So we went to the city of Westland. We said, you know, how is this allowed? How is she living in a house with no roof?
Aren't y'all referring to that?
They went and knocked on her door. I actually told them that all her drywalls on the ceiling had fallen down because a neighbor had approached the door and she had opened it for some, and all the ceilings were, because of the water, it would just, you know, fall.
Right.
So I said it was a hazard, so they actually went in and inspected, and it took a year later, but she finally had a new roof put on. And the city offered to pay for the roof.
Really?
There's a committee in Westland, if you're on hard times, they have funds to pay for your roof.
Okay.
They tried calling her for 2 years, and she never returned a call.
For a free roof.
Free roof.
I mean,
She's got some problems.
She's got some
Yeah.
other issues.
Well, we think she has a mental disorder.
Yeah.
We should be
Sounds
nicer.
like-
Clearly.
But it just goes to show that even though we have power,
See?
we can't do anything.
Right.
See, that's why I don't like common areas with no fences. Anybody can just run in your backyard, bad kids, problem neighbors, no.
Dog.
Yeah.
Dogs.
It is crazy.
I don't
Yeah.
like that. That was on hold.
Yeah, I had one new
Fenced in
construction.
yard.
I wanted something new too. So everywhere we look, it was like the association fees, ain't no fence in the backyard.
Fences are expensive now to install. They are not cheap.
Yeah. It's like it's a circus behind my house. Like the one kids that just moved in, they do like archery and BB guns. They're always shooting stuff.
Oh my
And
God.
then the other ones are like acrobats. They have those like those wires, like they're wire walkers in the back. It's crazy back there. You see all of it. 'Cause it's just
Was it
open.
Bloomfield Hills?
It's a Novi, yeah. And then like I was running the other day. It was 3 a.m. and I'm like outside jogging, and there's just like deer all over because there's like wetlands and woods behind us. So it's like a circus around my house. It's crazy.
No fences?
No fences. No. Some people do have fences. You are allowed, like
You
you
have a
said.
pool.
Yeah, there can be metal, the thick like wrought iron fences. You can put those up, but not many people have them. There's only a couple, so there must be some pretty legitimate rules around it. And the one people that have it don't have a pool, so I'm not sure what the exact rules are.
And then like
Why is that
mother, she
required?
lives in the Matrix Village. Nikki has fences, but they have coyotes. She had
Fox.
So she can't use her
kill
deck.
kill a animal on her deck.
And if they barbecue, the coyotes, if they're cooking out on
Yeah,
the
they'll be
deck,
barbecue
they just
them
sit
now.
there and watch them.
Um,
And so they don't make use of their deck or anything because they can't because of the coyotes and they won't let them
There's
put
your
this
first
up.
list.
right, absolutely. Watch out for the coyotes.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
So you got coyotes and foxes?
all kinds of stuff, all the wildlife. Because across the street from my house is just all woods and wildlife. So it's like there's constantly, and the deer are like our wildlife. It's like they're not scared of you. If you come up to my porch, a squirrel will just be there eating our pumpkins at Halloween time, and I'm like hear from the squirrel, and he's just like sitting there eating a pumpkin, like you're
That's
interested.
Waited an Ann Arbor Trail yesterday when I was at work. There's deer running right across the street in that little patch from the BP gas station.
Yeah.
You have to see a deer. Some people see.
We have
Everybody's seen a deer but me.
so many deer.
I've not seen a deer.
If I'm sitting in my kitchen, there'll be like 10 to 12 of them, all just like in the backyard.
Now, when I was in
walking
Detroit,
around.
There were deer, but we were across from the park and we saw deer, but I have not seen one.
I always get stressed out when I do my spring yard cleanup because there'll be holes in my backyard, and I'm like, I don't know what's in the hole. Is it like chipmunks? Is it a snake? Is it a fox?
Go
Like,
back,
what's in
go
the
back
hole?
to this thing.
Because I go to the gym at 5:30, so I wanted to run before I went to the gym.
You can run at the gym. They got
Right.
those machines that have like a
Not
treadmill.
at my gym. My gym is
Oh my
like
God,
a
Orange
CrossFit
Theory.
gym. No, I work out with weights. I lift. So my gym is just rigs and ropes and the big heavy sand balls. So you can't run at my gym. It's just made for weightlifting. So I was running, but I probably won't do that again because it was super slick, and I was just afraid I was gonna break a leg.
It's early.
Yeah.
It's cold.
I don't like being up early. I don't need a lot of
It's
sleep.
dark.
But it was dark. And we don't have like because we're by the woods. I think they didn't put any like lights in like for the animals and stuff, so I wasn't too bright for them or something. I don't know. There's no street lights. We didn't realize until after we moved in that there's no street lights on our block.
So you were running at 3 a.m. with no street
You
lights.
get hit by a deer.
I'm
You
not,
know?
I know.
I'm not gonna spank you for
But
that.
well, I see the movement and I'm like, well, I figure like all creepy people are sleeping.
No.
No, that's not
No. They're looking for people like you.
That's when they see a car.
3 a.m.
Two and four.
I'm sorry, I just heard that. It's like, you know, I don't want to go to the bathroom.
I just thought it before I went to work out. So the thing you guys need to know about homeowners associations, you guys will have to, when you're on the listing agent side of things, you will need to order a status letter. And the status letter says if the dues are paid or past due and how much they are.
They email us every time there's a closing or a refinance.
Yeah, you are not allowed to close without it. Like the buyer can't assume it or anything like that. So the hard thing is when you get a homeowners association, it's very small and like the treasurer, you can't find them. Like I had one time and he had to go and sit on this lady's porch because she would not send us a status letter. Like we had called, we had emailed, we had mailed her. And she's like, just excuse. And I'm like, bro, if you don't get the status letter, like we cannot close. You are not allowed to close without it. So it is a must that you must get it. And so you had to go sit and wait on her porch.
Wow.
So
We went away from the internet and just Facebook.
yeah.
So if they want that letter, you just message us.
That's awesome. The easier they make it, the better it is. Like we don't want to keep stalking people, but the title company will not let you close without it because it's a lien on the property, like you said. All right, final water bills. Who orders the final water bill? Anybody know who orders the final water bill? Seller. So sometimes the buyer can if it's written on there, but usually the seller orders the final water bill, and the listing agent provides it to the title company. Now, if it is a REO or a bank-owned property, a lot of times they will say buyer's responsibility to get water bill, and submit it to the listing agent. And if that happens, you must submit it within 30 days, because what happens is we have these assets in our systems, and 30 days after closing, they're gone. So we can't pay any bills after those 30 days are done. So if you don't get that water bill in, you as the buyer's agent then become responsible for paying that water bill. So the end all be all, if it doesn't get paid, the buyer's agent ends up with the
But
responsibility.
you can't set it to the
to pay
closing
it.
date.
If the water is on, correct, you would need to get the final water bill for the date of the closing. Now,
Okay.
some people will do it the day before the day before, and as long as it's stamped final water bill, nobody really has a problem with it. But on the closing disclosure, they hold a water escrow for that final bill. So a lot of times they'll bring in the final bill and say, hey, here, title company, you pay the final water bill and take it out of the escrow and then disperse that escrow after closing. But as the buyer's agents, you guys just need to make sure that that has been either paid on the closing disclosure or that it's been obtained and so that it gets paid. Because I did have a buyer's agent who the water bill didn't get paid and the buyer took the buyer's agent to court and the judge ruled like it's your fiduciary duty to take care of your client. And so I had to garnish his paychecks for his client's water bill from the closing. So you got to make sure it gets paid. When are they ordered before closing? What do you do with it? Make sure it's closed on closing disclosure. What if you don't? You could end up responsible for it. So just make sure it gets done. And again, I want you guys to recognize, like, when we're going through these things, like, it may sound a little scary, like, oh my gosh, all these things I have to remember. I try to give you guys the worst case scenarios in training, so it's not really this hard or this scary or like, but I want you guys to hear about these scenarios, so if you run into them, you're not like, oh my gosh, I'm the only person this ever happened to, this is so terrible. Like, sometimes bad stuff, like, just happens. It's part of so many people being involved in the transaction. Everyone is like a snowflake. Like, every deal is going to be a little bit different. You're going to learn from every one of them. Like, if something bad happens, like, nobody dies. We'll keep going on. We'll figure out a way around it. So don't get too stressed out if something gets off track or doesn't go the way it's supposed to go or something happens or you forget something. Like, it's going to be inevitable that you're going to mess up. So just let me know and we'll fix it together. Like, it's not a problem. Okay. So that moment when you get the clear to close, we're ready to close. Loan officer gives the clear to close. That means, all right, all the conditions are done. You can set your closing with the title company. The listing agent will schedule the close with the title company. You will advise the buyer of the place and the time. You want to follow up with the title company to get that closing disclosure and make sure that your client has seen it and went through it and you've answered any questions before you go to closing, okay? So you're gonna call them and say, hey John, guess what? We're clear to close, we're set up to close. How does Tuesday afternoon look for you? Great, all right, when do you wanna do your final walkthrough, okay? So final walkthrough, again, is very important. You wanna go walk the property before the closing to make sure it's the same as when you walk the property and make the offer. That all the trash is out of it, that all the seller's crap is out of it, that the yard is mowed, that everything looks the way it's supposed to look for you to go ahead and go to
Can you
closing.
take pictures?
Yes, absolutely. And you want to take your sign. Remember we talked about our closed signs? So we have signs for our buyers. They're just kind of like, you know, when you get a new roof and they put those metal wire signs in. So they're like that. They're a little bit more sturdy. But you're going to go to Kim and say, hey, I have a closing on Thursday. Can I get a closed sign? She's going to say, yeah. You're going to sign out the closed sign. You're going to take it with you to your final walkthrough, put it in the front yard, take a picture of your client in front of their house, all excited with their closed sign, post it on social media, tag them. Then all their friends are going to be like, I'm looking for a house too. And you can be like, great, I'll help you too. So you're going to get referrals from it. You're going to get excitement from your clients from it. And then you can also go ahead and print that off at CVS for 10 cents, pop it in a dollar store frame, wrap it up and give it to them as a closing gift. Clients love closing gifts. And what does that do for you? They put it up in their house and now they're subconsciously looking at your picture with your sign all the time. So when they go to resell their house, who are they going to go to? And then all the people that see that photo in their house are going to be like, oh, this is so cute. And where'd you get it? Oh, my agent gave it to me. My agent never gave me anything. You know what? Do you have your agent's card? So you're going to keep getting referrals from that one little 10-cent picture, right? So do that. Have the sign out there. You get more calls. 14 days after your closing, you go pick up your sign. So just set yourself a little reminder in your Google Calendar or whatever you use to go pick up your sign. That is also when you want to ask for reviews is before your final walkthrough. So when you're on the phone saying, hey, we're going to go to the final walkthrough, you're going to say, I'm going to send you a link right now. to go ahead and review us on Google or Facebook, or if you have a Zillow profile on Zillow, that's fine too. But I would suggest Google or Facebook. Get them to review on Google or Facebook because that's going to build you, your brand. And then I also, as you guys' broker, I snapshot those reviews all the time and I post them on our pages and say like, oh, look, Lori got another 5-star review. She's awesome. So obviously when people call Elite, who are they going to call? The person that's getting all the 5-star reviews, right? So ask for those reviews during that time because that's the best time to do it. They're going to see you again, right, in a couple days or tomorrow or this evening for their final walkthrough. So they're going to want to do it. And then if they haven't done it, when you get to the final walkthrough, you can be like, oh, I just want to make sure you got that email with the link to give me my review because those reviews are really important. So make sure they do the reviews. Make sure you ask for it when you do the final walkthrough. And that's when they're excited and happy too, right? They just got their clear close. They're going to closing. They're going to write a great review. Get the closing disclosure from the title company, send it to us so that we get to look at it, management at Elite Realty MI. And then also respond to the title company and say, I'm good with it. Here is our buy-sell resolution. So on our website, there's a document called the buy-sell resolution. It's in with your purchase agreement. You want to get that buy-sell resolution signed at every single closing. You don't get paid if it's not signed. So you send it to the title company, they put it in the closing package, and it gets signed with the closing docs. Most offices have it, so it's not out of the ordinary. They know to get it.
But if you forget, it's not the end of the world. We'll fix it.
You go and get your buyer to sign it
No,
after
I'm just
closing.
Where is your title company's closing?
Here,
Are they
Liberty
always
Title
here?
comes here. Yep, or Legacy. I'm sorry.
Do they have a
Legacy
room
Title.
in here, or is that just the?
No, you'll
flow?
schedule it with Kim, and they'll do it. So I own part of Legacy Title, so we're considered a Legacy Title too. So they'll come and close here. Legacy will go anywhere and close though. Like if your clients, like I had a client that was pregnant, they went to the hospital and closed. They'll go to their house and close. They'll close on a weekend, close on a weekday, whatever you need. Heather is our contact there, and then Diane heads up the whole place. They will take care of whatever.
1 hour.
Hmm?
1 hour do you proposing? Do you-
That's usually what I allot, an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. Cash closings are fast though. You can do a cash closing in like 15 minutes.
You see them your guns?
Mhm.
Really?
I've actually closed, like my friend buys houses from me cash. I actually closed in myself. I didn't even have a title company come out. I was like, here we go. There's 6 papers. We're done. It's easy. The other good thing is technology. So if your buyer is going to be on a cruise or be out of town or be somewhere else, you can still close. We can email them the docs and they can sign them and send them back. So you don't have to be here to close. So never let anybody use the excuse like, oh, we can't close, I'm going out of town, or I'm going here, I'm going there. That's fine. We'll just email you the docs and you can just sign them and send it back. And then they can wire the funds. Anybody can wire usually from their bank account or Zelle Pay or Quick Pay or whatever, Pop Pay, whatever bank they have, they can pay the money. So you can actually do email closings for people that are out of state or out of country and then just have them wire or email the funds over, and that's fine too. We love if they're all together, but if they're not, it's not the end of the world. Remind the buyer to bring their identification if they're coming to closing, and I have certified check up there, but a lot of title companies are wanting lawyers now. So make sure when you get the closing disclosures, you read through them and see if that title company is requiring a wire or if a certified check is okay. A lot of times they want a wire.
Husband and wife are applying, or they're coming to closing. Wife can't make it, then the wife give power of attorney to the husband?
Yes, they would have to sign an original power of attorney prior to closing.
Like, I mean, they could do it anytime.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, because I know that they want them both there, but
Yep.
one can't be there.
No, it's not a big deal.
If you come in person, you have to bring an ID, but you can do it, and not, I should say anonymously, but you can do it by email, and it doesn't matter whether or not you have an ID.
You just scan a copy with the package.
Sure. Copy of email.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, kind of just a little mock-up of how the closing table looks. So if we're in here for a closing, usually the title company sits right there, buyer, seller, second buyer, seller, or the agents. And then if they have 2 buyer sellers, then the agents, and then if you have a loan officer, they kind of go around the circle.
That's not it.
Um,
I tried to say the key and
Right, yeah. Like there's a way, there's a method to the closing.
Yeah.
You can't sit there.
That's it right there. They're like,
Yeah. We're very specific about things in this industry. Always, 100% of the time, you must go to your closings. If you can't go, let me and Andy know, one of us will go for you. We just don't want Elite Realty not represented with their clients at closing. So we are always here to have your backs, guys. So make sure you realize that. Like, we're a team here, and that's one of the big things that sets Elite Realty apart from other offices. We're here to help. So if you can't get to something, let us know, and we're going to help you out. We're going to go to it for you. You can't make an inspection, we'll go to it for you. You can't make a closing, we'll go to it for you. We want you to always feel like you have a really good, strong support behind you. So let us know, and we'll take care of that. So go to your closings, suit up. Always dress up for your closings. This is your final impression to not only your clients, but title companies, other people, their clients, all of that. So sometimes when I see realtors come in and they're like in a jeans and hoodie, my head wants to explode. Like, I can't. So make sure you dress up for your closings. It's very important. Even if you and your clients are best friends or cousins or whatever, still suit up. Phone away. Don't have your phone out on the table, on your lap. Don't look at it. When you are going through your closing, your eyes should be on what your clients are signing, because I've had an agent that comes in and I'm like, where's your 495? And they're like, oh, well, it was on the HUD, on the closing disclosure. And I'm like, well, were you watching the papers go around? Well, no. Well, now you owe 495 because it got changed between when they see the docs and when they came to. So that can happen. Things can change between what you see and what you get at the table. So you have to be watching. Like, it's 1 hour of your life to just stay focused on what's happening. And this is the biggest moment in their lives. And I see too many other agents like sitting there Candy Crush on their phones while their clients are signing away, $500,000 of their life right now. So phone away. We don't even want to see it. When you walk in, introduce yourself to everyone. I know these things seem like common sense, but I have to reiterate them because I will go to closings and then people just sit down and I'm like, hi, who are you? So, hi, I'm Trish. I'm the buyer's agent. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Here's my card, title company lady, so they know who you are. Smile and bring your file. So I know nowadays we're all very paperless, but when I go to closing, I always make sure I have an actual physical file with me. Because I never feel somebody's like, does anybody have a copy of the homeowner's insurance, the addendum to close, the this, the that? And I always have it. So that makes me look like the most prepared person in the room, which is always a good thing. So bring your paper file with you. It's very, very beneficial.
So everything that's supposed to be in closing docs, you have a copy of.
I don't worry so much about the closing docs. It's more the paperwork that's went like throughout the deal, right? So like all the addendums we've signed, our purchase agreements, the homeowner's insurance deck page, any of the stuff that I got from like my clients or has been signed. Because the actual closing docs, the title company is going to have, and they're going to sign. And those may have changed from what you got to when they got there.
What about that 495?
The buy-sell resolution form, there is no 495 form. That's on our purchase agreement and on our contract with our client, the exclusive buyer's agency contract. So that's on those. Yeah, that's the admin fee. That's already on those. So that should be on your closing disclosure. But you would have those docs in your file, yes. You'd have the exclusive agency and the purchase agreement.
Remind me, that fee is added to the closing cost.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Nobody ever sees it up front. It's not out of their pocket or anything like that. It's just like the title company's fees. It's on your closing disclosure. So they're going to give you a package. After closing, the title company is it's going to be a big envelope. When you get that package, I want you to immediately open it up while you're sitting there with the title company person before they leave. Open it up, pull out your checks, and make sure they're written to Elite Realty and that they are the correct amount. And you don't have anybody else's checks. Because I get packages with the other agent's checks, the wrong amount, written out to the wrong company, like all kinds of crazy stuff. So always, always, always open up your package immediately and check out your checks and make sure they're the right amounts and they're to the right companies because they make errors. Sometimes they forget the 495 checks. Sometimes they write it out to the wrong company. Sometimes they swapped out the packages. So just make sure you have the right ones. And then write your name on the outside of that envelope because you're going to turn that envelope in to me. So you're going to get your closing package. You're going to write your name. You're going to check the checks. You're going to take your paper file and you're going to pop it in there and then you're going to turn it into my bin. Okay? So you can scan the paperwork to yourself and keep a paperless copy if you want. But that's the point in time where you're going to take out your checklist, right? And you're going to take your package and your checklist, and you'll probably do this here. You're not going to do this at the closing. But you're going to go through your checklist and make sure you have everything on that checklist. And then you're going to put those two files together and put it in my bin, and then I can process it through to get you paid. So you want to make sure you go through the checklist, you have everything on the checklist, and you have your checks. And if there's anything I need to know, write it on the outside. Like, for example, if you close a MSHA deal. MSHA only allows $395 on the closing disclosure for our fee. So you would have your client write a $100 check to fulfill their portion, okay? So you may write on the outside of that envelope, MSHA deal, $100 check from client, rest is in the closing fees, right? Or if it was a VA deal, and there is no $495 because we don't make the veterans pay the $495, okay? So you may write on the exterior of the folder, VA deal, no $495.
You don't charge $495 for the summit or buy for a VA?
Only for veterans, yes. Yep. You served our country and fought for our freedom, we're not gonna charge you. Put all the packages and the checks in my bin, make sure all the docs are in there, use the checklist. You'll get paid within 48 hours, 48 business hours. So if it's Friday, I don't come in usually on Saturday and Sunday, unless I have a training or something special. So if you turn in a package on Friday, you're gonna get paid on Monday, maybe Tuesday, like if I wasn't in town on Monday or something happened. But usually if I'm not here, Kim will cut checks. So, but if it's Friday, no, that's gonna be Monday or Tuesday. Kim audits the files. So all I look at, what you want to make sure is on top of the package is your checks. And if you have a split form, like if you're splitting with another agent, like you two worked together on a deal and you're splitting it 50-50, make sure it's the checks, the split form, and then the closing disclosures, and then all the rest of the stuff. I only look at the checks and the closing disclosure and the split form. So make sure the split form is on top, because if it's in the bottom or in the middle, I'm not going to see it because I don't go through each and every one of those papers. I take the things, I cut the checks, and then I give the package to Kim, and she audits it. So if the checks are wrong, you're going to get a wrong check, and then you'll be like, oh, well, it was in there in the bottom, and I'll get started. If you have corrections, Kim will let you know. So she goes through and makes sure, like, you know, she audits it to make sure it's all correct, that it fits all the state and federal guidelines, nothing was missed. If something is missed, she'll email you and say, congratulations on your closing, your buy-sell resolution is missing. Please bring that in and we'll exchange for your check. Make sure you pick up your buyer sign in 14 days. Make sure you post your closing on Facebook, guys. You will get so much business from this. I cannot reiterate it enough.
Is there a social media form that they have to sign?
No.
So
Like a release for
yeah,
posting
what
a
if they
picture?
get mad if you post the name on Facebook?
We've never had anybody get mad. They're usually really excited.
I know people
People
nowadays
names
are
are just
funny.
thanks. Just happy selling.
If you
That's
tag
actually-
them, you already are friends with them. or something.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a face. I mean,
You can use your gut. I mean, you're gonna get to know these people. You'll know them if they don't like Facebook, like they're
They're gonna tell you.
anti-Facebook. You'll know by the time you get to your closing. Or you can just ask them, like, hey, we're gonna use this as a social media post. Do you mind? And if they say yes, I mind. That's no problem. Then we'll do it. No big. Lots of them are super excited though, and I had one lady. She was like, because I only pull them if people tag me. So like when you guys post yours, tag me. Make sure you guys all friend me on Facebook too, because there's an Elite Realtor group in Facebook that's for our office. Okay.
I was looking at your Facebook yesterday, and I was going to, but my last name's different on
Okay.
Facebook than it actually is.
Okay.
So I didn't want to do it, and you go,
Who
who
is
the heck
it?
is that?
I'd accept you anyways. I accept all of my friends.
And
Unless
then I
they
thought
look
you
like
said
a
you
fake
maxed
profile.
out. And I'm like,
I am. So sometimes somebody may have defriended me, so you can get in there.
oh,
Every once in a while, people will
It's
defriend me.
unfriendly.
Unfriend me. Yeah, they'll cut me off. They get sick of my shenanigans, or they get off of Facebook or something. So
Right.
sometimes spots open up. So click the friend request, and if I'm full, then it'll just wait until somebody like befriends me, and then I'll be able to put you in.
What do you mean? You can have too many friends?
Yeah, I
I
have
know that.
5,000 friends. That's the max you're allowed to have.
and will it tie to the Instagram name in some way?
No, Andy runs the Instagram. I'm not hip. I'm like so bad at
Because
posting
my
on Instagram.
Instagram name is even more
yeah,
interesting.
you gotta
It's-
change them.
I'm just wondering if I could. It's banking bitch, but I'm wondering if I could like. No.
Your Facebook, I don't think.
I mean, do you care? Like, do you care? That it's,
No, I
Okay.
wouldn't even know because I'm not like I'm on Instagram, but I only remember to like post on there like once a week. maybe,
Okay.
So.
I'm sorry for
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just, I just kept picking names and nothing worked. Man.
I-
I just
I'm not-
looked at it and
You don't
it never
exist.
worked.
I have
I don't post.
I have a lot of friends,
Good.
but I don't share anything. I just mean,
Yeah. So
I
it is
mine blocked from
It's just
sharing.
time consuming.
It doesn't have to be though, because you don't need to invest your brain in it. Remember how I said Facebook should be like fake world, right?
Yeah.
So you can get everything you need to get done on Facebook in 15 minutes. 5 minutes of messaging people happy birthday.
Oh,
5 minutes to make your 3 posts,
I hate that.
and then 5 minutes to add friends. So 15 minutes, add friends. That's
Did you,
it.
Did you do your disclaimer that
Five,
Facebook
five, five.
doesn't have the right to use your? That's all bullshit.
No.
That pissed
I
me
do
off so
whatever
much.
I want on Facebook.
If
I have
you use
0
Facebook,
rules.
you give them permission to use all your crap.
Yeah.
You putting a disclaimer in there is not going to help you.
Mhm.
And all these
About
people,
it.
You know,
all
it's
those
public.
people
I mean, it's just
posting that.
public stuff. So once it's out there, it's out there. It doesn't matter. Because
It's out
even
there
if Facebook,
forever.
right, even if Facebook doesn't use it, someone else can take it. They can share it.
Yep.
It's just out there.
It's
So what
the
you put out there is what you put out
fastest free way to build your business. No. I literally get leads every single day.
Actually, you
from
explained a lot
Every day.
yesterday with that, how people, and why we get so much from other
Yeah.
people.
Mhm.
And they did help. It was like some people I'm so sick. But I understand.
Now I get it. So yesterday I was commenting on certain people's stuff on purpose, like, okay, she's promoting her business. Okay, now I'm getting, I'll say something on there. Because usually I'll just hit
I
like,
had no idea
but
about
this
it.
time I'm like, okay, that's nice. That's funny.
Do you have like other people asking you questions, like, I don't know, instant messaging or? What do you have to like?
I don't see, and that I have some people that don't
Yes.
do it because but see, I don't have a lot of friends. My friends are boring. So I mean, they may
with
post
that
pictures of
Instagram name.
No, but on Facebook.
Oh.
On Facebook, I don't have a lot of friends. Instagram, I really only got because my cousin was sharing a bunch of stuff. I don't post on Instagram, but I don't have a lot of people bugging me like that. My messages are usually between family, and I mean, I have people from high school, but
I run my Facebook like a business.
yeah,
so
see, I wasn't.
I
there.
get on, I hit my 15 things, right? My 5 messages, my 5 comments, and my 5 friends. Well, now I don't have 5 friends that I need to add anymore, so I'll do like 10 comments. And then I get off.
Right.
So that's it. Like I clear my red dots, I do my things, and then I get off. And that's it.
Those
Yeah, the notifications.
Oh.
He probably
Yes.
doesn't pay attention.
And I have-
honestly,
And I have 2 groups that I
And
run.
your,
So
your,
I
your
have
swinging belt.
Yeah, so I have a fitness group that I run that has 1,600 women in it, and then I have our Elite Realtor Facebook group that I run. So it's like my Facebook time takes about. I usually spend about 15 minutes in the morning, first thing in the morning, and then about 15 minutes at lunchtime, and then probably about 15 to 20 minutes in the
See,
evening.
she's still on.
And that's it. I'm on and off, on and off, on and off. And it's just to respond. I'm, exact. If you get lost in the feed, though, that's when it gets overwhelming.
And
I don't
it's
do
up to you.
Yeah.
How-
Yeah, it's up to you. You may only check it. But you want to get, if you're not consistent about posting 3 times a day, that morning, that afternoon, and that evening, that edge score won't go up, so you won't show up in people's feed. So that's why you want to be consistent. Because if you don't, like when I go on vacation for a week, I go to Hampton Beach every summer. When I do that week, I put my phone away. Well, then when I come back, it's like I start all over again on Facebook. So last year I didn't. I still would I'd wake up earlier in the morning before my family was up and do my morning post. And then at lunchtime, I'd run in when I was making lunch and do my lunch one. And then at night after the kids went out, I'd do my evening one. Because starting all over with your edge score just wasn't worth it. Because you took so much time to build that. But once you build it, it's just like a machine. It's automated. It's like, oh, I post this, I post this, I post this. So I use, I go on Google and I'll put in Monday motivation and then hit images, save that image, and then you'll see me just post an image with a heart emoji. And everybody's like, oh, share, comment, share, so it's that
I don't know
simple.
how to do that.
Let's see, I have a-
I just told you how to do it. It's that simple. Like whatever you want for content, it's that simple. Monday motivation and hit Google image and you're gonna get tons of stuff.
Not that I suggest this, but I have a friend who posts, like if her family goes out, she'll do an album and it'll be like, let's say 36 pictures in the album. But then she goes and reposts each 36 individually. That drives me insane. But I guess that's how she's promoting, that
Her raising her edge
but
score.
that drives me
So
crazy.
we have around 80 agents now in this office. How many do you lose them?
I very rarely lose an agent. I've only lost one agent in the last, well, since we moved in here for sure. So since July.
So I picked this office based on how many agents.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my fear, and this is maybe public fear, that you get up to a Keller Williams 400 or 500. So let's say you hit 200. Will you open another branch, or will it stay here?
I will always keep my core together, and here's why. I at one point had 3 branches, but when you have 3 branches, you can't be everywhere, right? So it's like I had a branch in Dearborn. It was too hard to know like what that girl was doing that was running that branch, or the one in Macomb, no idea what they're doing. And I don't want to dilute Elite Realty. I don't ever want like to not know what's going on at a place where Elite Realty is. So it's like I picked this specific office because I can bust through this wall, which I'm going to do, and take over that space and make this space bigger, right? Now, if I get to 200 agents where I do need a bigger building, then I would just buy a bigger building, because it's not just me that makes Elite Realty great. It's Andy, TJ, me, Jill, Stephanie. It's our people that are in here. So I would never want to like break that up where some are at this office, some are at this office, some are at this office. Even though would they be great leaders by themselves? Yes, but we complement each other so well so that we can all help you and you and you and you and you. I know that we can keep growing if I keep all of those people in one space. So I would just keep getting bigger buildings instead of trying to break up the
So
good
were you
culture
bigger
that
with
we have.
the 2 other branches? Were you larger? Or
No,
okay.
no, I wasn't. No, I've never held as many licenses as I hold.
And you know there's other Elite Realtors.
Yes.
And it's very confusing.
It actually sometimes is very beneficial though. Like I'll have people like, oh, you just listed a house down the street for me. So it actually like kind of builds our brand because people don't realize they're different.
Yeah, the next closest one is, where is it? I just saw it.
There's one on the east side. We get their closing packages all the time.
I thought you have to like, register those names.
Yeah, so our actual license name is RECS Holdings. So we used to be Real Estate Connection Service. When I first opened my first brokerage, it was Real Estate Connection Service. And then I had, actually our sign is still up on 96 in Newburgh. If you drive by 96 in Newburgh, there's a building right there on the service drive. And you can see our sign up there. It says Real Estate Connection Service. They never like took it down from 15 years ago. So my very first office was in Novi, and we were Real Estate Connection Service in like a shared space. And then I got that space in Livonia because we outgrew the Novi space and we wanted like our own standalone space. And when I was in Novi, I had an office in Dearborn and I had an office in Macomb. And when I came to Livonia, I brought the Dearborn office into the Livonia office. Now, when I say Dearborn office, you think of a big office, but it was literally like one office room, like this room with like 4 desks in it. So it was like you had another location, but it realistically wasn't a big office. It was just 4 people that were working over there. But I didn't like not knowing what was going on there with my name on the sign. So then I brought him to the Livonia office. And then the people that were working in Macomb, I told them they had to come to our office to work. Like they weren't going to be a standalone branch anymore. So Real Estate Connection Service was there for like 3-4 years. And then we closed that because I got married and my sister came to live with me. And when I got remarried, he had 2 kids. So I went from just like me and my kid to like this Insta family of like tons of kids and people. And I was like, this is really stressful, like trying to run all of these people and all of these kids in this like whole new life. So I closed it and I merged with another real estate company. And we worked together for a while. But then I was like, I don't like working with somebody else. I want to run things the way that I run them and be in control of what's going on and be able to, have the culture that I want to have. So then me and Andy opened Elite Realty off of Schoolcraft. And that's kind of like how it merged. So I still had Real Estate Connection, but when I first became a broker, I was going to open up Elite Realty. So I DBA'd the name Elite Realty when I got my broker's license, but never used it until 10 years later when I opened up Elite Realty. So my license I left as RECS Holdings, but it's DBA'd as Elite Realty.
But back to her question, you can't have 2 businesses with the same name in Michigan.
So they're different. So like we are RECS Holdings LLC DBA doing business as Elite Realty. So they are like Elite Realty, Inc. or Corp or something else. So as long as you change like the ending in some way, shape, or form, or if you're a different name doing business as something else, that's why there can be so many Remaxes, because it's really like John Smith doing business as Remax, or Kathy Smith doing business as Keller Williams. So you can have lots of doing business as the same name, but you can't have your core name be the same as other names. Run the lead program. So there's a great lead program. Have any of you guys ever heard of Rick Ruby? So Rick Ruby is really big in real estate coaching industry. He is a part of Summit Funding, and he runs the 1-2-3 lead program. So what does that mean? This is a great way to get referrals. Rick Ruby. So after your closing, right, maybe a week after closing, when your people have settled in and they're unpacked and they feel not so chaotic, you're going to give them a call. And you're going to say, hey, Sally, I just want to give you a call. You know, you love in the house? Yeah, okay. I just want to ask you a quick question. You got a minute? Yeah, of course. Did I do a good job for you? I'm just going to say, yeah. Are you willing to do me a favor? I'm just going to say, yeah. And you're going to say, are you sure? I'm just going to say yes again. You want to say those exact same things because you want to get 3 yeses. Did I do a good job for you? Are you willing to do me a favor? Are you sure? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, great. I need you to send me a deal or a referral in the next 60 days. The biggest reason why agents don't get referrals is because they don't ask. They just don't ask. Nobody asks for business. They feel like weird or icky or sticky or something about asking for referrals. So we make sure every agent runs the Rick Ruby 1-2-3 after closing. So about a week or 2 weeks after closing, make sure every single lead, every single time you give them a call and ask them those questions. Did I do a good job? Will you do me a favor? Are you sure? Can you send me a lead or a referral or a deal in the next 60 days? And some of my agents will even say, I'm in a contest, because we're always in a contest. There's a leaderboard that runs in this middle room of everybody's numbers. So you guys are always in a competition against everybody else in the office. So you can always use the thing, I'm in a contest right now. I need to close more than the other agents in the office. Can you send me a deal in the next 60 days? Lots of people like to help people out with contests, competitions, things like that. So whichever way you want to word it is fine, but do it. You're going to see how many more referrals because you're staying in front of people's minds. People don't not send you business because they think you did a bad job. They just don't think about you sometimes. So it's really important to keep dripping on those people even after closing. We want these people to keep coming to us over and over and over again, and we want them to send us their friends, family, and people that they do business with. So this is a really great way. And a lot of my agents will run this like every couple months. So they'll call all their closings in January, and then they'll call them all again in March, and then they'll call them all again, every 2 months and run this Rick Ruby 1-2-3 on them and say, hey, can you send me a deal? Can you send me a deal? And they're like, yeah, of course, yeah, no problem, definitely. They'll either do it with a phone call, or sometimes they'll just do it with a text message. So either one of those is fine too.
I've been giving everybody business credit.
That's awesome. It's so good.
Every day.
Good.
Every day. And I tell them the whole story.
Love it. All right. Questions? Anything? No? All right. Where do you go from here? Where do we go from here? You finish your STARS program. All right. So that's the STARS program rundown. From here, what you would do is, those of you who want to graduate on to taking leads, you're going to sign up for Floor Time with Kim and sign up for the closer call blocks that you see me send out with the Sign Up Genius. Okay. So I would suggest from today, if you want to start taking leads, I would sign up for at least 2 to 3 closer call blocks and come in and do that supervised call time with a coach before you actually take some floor time on your own. You are allowed to take some floor time on your own, but are you ready when you have only went through 2-day training? Probably not. Probably not. So it would be much better for you to sign up and do some of those closer call blocks first and then move on to I'm doing floor time by myself.
Can we ask her how many calls she's gotten today?
Session. And then they get routed into that room. Is there somebody in there?
It's whoever's on floor time. So I don't know.
Or does it go to their cell phone?
No, you cannot take floor time on your cell phone.
Okay. Let
me see. Yeah, because right now, floor time's actually open today. Nobody had signed up for today's floor time. So that is actually open right now.
So I'm just wondering, because I always think Sundays are the greatest days to work floor time. Everybody's off work, they're looking on Sundays for just get home from church, looking for a house.
Sunday Sundays are actually kind of slow usually on the
Yeah,
phones.
because some of you got married for work the next day. So you gotta wash clothes and get down.
Yeah, a lot of people want to rest on Sundays.
Right.
Sunday's the day of rest.
It's like, hey,
Like, I've been doing this all week.
I need a minute, really.
Rest day.
All right, let's go through the rest of your tests too. Where are we at on questions?
You didn't-
40.
I didn't get one of these. Is that mine?
It is.
Hold it out.
Boom.
Thank
All right, we're on 40.
Mhm.
All right, so this actually goes back to yesterday. Can you accept a counter on behalf of your client without going through it with them if you think it's a good deal?
No.
List agent says, we are accepting your client's offer. What should you wait for before telling your clients?
In writing.
Good. Sign docs. If a listing agent makes you mad, what should you do? Let's
I
go
say
D.
Yeah.
Yep. Ask to call them back and go and discuss it with me or Andy or TJ. If a listing agent says, forget it, kill the deal, what should you do? D. Ask to call them back and come and talk to us. Don't just sign the mutual release and move on, okay? Because a lot of times they just don't have the education enough to be able to work around the problem. We'll help you to work around the problem. Can you proceed with the deal after terms are agreed upon via the phone?
Yes.
No, has to be in writing. Gotta be in writing. If I say, I'm accepting your client's deal, you're gonna say, awesome, when I get the signed docs, I'll present them to my client. Do not call your client and say, hey, they're accepting your deal. Because they might get a better offer after they hang up the phone and not accept your deal and go and accept that better offer.
Yeah, but I thought there was a time where they,
Everything has to be in writing.
wait a minute, there's a time, I thought, that you can,
Zero
Accept it.
verbal.
No, not verbal.
Everything
No,
must
I-
be in writing in real estate.
No,
100%
I'm
of
pretty
the
sure there
time.
was-
Every
there was a
time
time.
in class, it was always in writing.
In writing.
I understand that.
There's no period
Remember,
of
it has to be
space
mutually
for
accepted.
verbal.
No.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Correct. Yeah. There was a time where verbally, maybe not to close, but a verbal acceptance was acceptable.
It's not.
No matter how many different ways you say it.
I know, I can reword it.
Are there agents out there that will try to negotiate with you verbally? Absolutely. There absolutely are. But is it a legal acceptable way? No, it's not. So I can call you and be like, my client said that they'll accept
Hey,
your
what's
deal
up?
if you go to 15,000. And you're like, great. You go back to your clients and say, hey, they said they'll accept your deal if we go up to 15,000. Your clients are like, great, go up to 15,000. So you go up to 15,000, you send it over, and they got a deal for 20 while
So,
you're waiting.
If you
They
have
take that
if
20.
you have a client that, okay, they countered and you accepted their counter verbally, but you didn't send back, but then you could still write and say that we want out of the deal
Yeah, you can.
until it's in writing.
Until it's in writing, it's not a deal. Until it's in writing, it's not a deal. So even if I say we accepted your offer, if I get a better deal in the meantime, and my client signs that deal, your deal's out. Even though I told you we were accepting your deal.
I understand the writing acceptance, but I thought there was a
Then it goes
time.
to being a new deal because it counted.
Yeah, so if they counter, so if a listing agent calls and says, we're gonna counter you to 145,000, you're gonna say, great. Can you please go ahead and adjust the purchase agreement, have your client's initial and send it over to me, and then I'll present it to my client. It has to be in writing. If it's
Just
not in
don't
writing,
tell
it's
them.
not a thing. So never tell your clients anything until you have it in writing in front of you. Because it happens a lot. A lot.
Yeah,
Right
you told us yesterday about a story, like 10 offers, but then no one ever sent anything in.
Yep,
10 people say
absolutely.
they're gonna make an offer.
Yeah.
They never sent it.
On my cousin's listing, I had 20 showings, 10 of them said we're sending offers, and one of them actually sent an offer.
And she didn't tell her that.
Yeah.
Which was a good thing.
They talked about that at G.
Yep.
That, for example.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. What will help an offer if highest and best is called? Mhm. Mhm. So G, all of the above. You can raise the price, remove the concessions, remove the contingencies, raise the EMD, write a family letter, and do an appraisal guarantee. All of those would help with the highest and best. Does the seller have to accept one of the offers that are given at highest and best? Nope. Correct. Can a seller counter an offer in highest and best? Yes. What does an END have to, when does an END have to be in? In compliance with the verbiage on the purchase contract, D. Whatever the purchase contract is when it has to be in. Does an agent need to be at a home inspection? Yes. If you have no news for your client, should you still call them each week?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. What must be on at the time of the inspection? Utilities, correct. Can you verbally negotiate with a listing agent after the inspection? No. You want to send over that inspection contingency form. If a client is dissatisfied with this inspection, should you kill the deal immediately? Does a client getting a home inspection start their mortgage process before the inspection or after? After. Because if you send that purchase agreement before the inspection and then you renegotiate on the price, now you're sending a new purchase agreement. So you're not actually applying for the mortgage with the loan officer and sending over the PA until after the inspection. Yeah, because you also don't want to order an appraisal and then you don't move forward with a house, right? Who gives the loan officer all the purchase contracts?
My agent.
Buyer's agent. Good. Finish this sentence that says you can set your closing now. All mortgage conditions are satisfied. You are blank to blank. You're closed. Good. What does the title work insure?
No cloud on
No cloud on title. It insures the deed.
the deed.
Yep.
What's the difference? I swear, I know we talked about that. The deed and the title.
So the title is, so your deed is your deed to your home. It says, I own this property, right? And so the title insurance is a policy saying that we're ensuring that this person owns this property. So title insurance is like homeowner's insurance. So homeowner's insurance on the house is just like title insurance on the deed. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when people say I have title of this, they really mean they have deed.
They really mean they're the deeded owners.
Okay, sorry.
Can a buyer pick any title company or do they have to go with the sellers?
Go with the seller.
They can pick. Yeah. You can always pick. You always have a choice. Who is the proposed insured for the owner's policy on the title? Correct. Great. Great job. Who is the proposed insured for the lender policy on the title? Mortgage company. Good. Who are your fee simple owners named on the policy?
Seller.
Good. Sellers. Yay. Which schedule outlines what needs to be done prior to closing? A or B? What do you guys think? Schedule A or Schedule B?
I remember A, I don't remember B.
Schedule B. Schedule B outlines. Schedule A was the stuff that showed like who was the proposed insured. I didn't point it out. Usually I pointed out that this is Schedule A and this is Schedule B. And it was just up there.
Is that one of those?
Slide, yeah.
We're not talking about these things.
No. When we went through the actual title work itself.
Oh,
You will never be asked that, so it's okay. But it's good to, it's always just good to know the little details. Can a buyer sign an assumption for back homeowners association dues and close without a status letter?
No.
In the end, who is responsible for the final water bill if it never gets paid from closing? Buyer's agent. Does the buyer's agent or the listing agent schedule a close? Listing agent, yeah. Can a buyer bring cash to closing if it's under $100? No, never cash. We are not allowed cash ever at all in this business ever. When is the best time to ask for referrals? Always is a good answer. It is.
once you confirm your closing.
When you're scheduling your final walkthrough, yeah. When you're scheduling your final walkthrough. But I like that. Always is a great answer. That's true. That's true. What do you got to pick up in 14 days after close?
Sign.
Your sold sign, yeah. What elite specific doc must get signed at closing? Buy-sell resolution. Yes. Good job. Who reviews your first 5 closing docs prior to close? Good. What do you do with your checks in your closing package when it's over? Make sure they're right. Yep. What else?
Put them in the bin.
Put them in the bin, and what else? Here, it goes into the next question. What must be written on the exterior of your closing package? Your name. Write your name. Please write your name. How long must you wait to ask him for closing checks? 48 hours. Yep.
Business hours.
Business hours. Thank you. Are we cool with wearing jeans to closing? No.
Introduce yourself.
Yes. Yes, yes. Where's your phone go? Away. Don't see it. It doesn't exist during closing time. If Kim emails you for corrections, when can you pick up your check? Yep, when you clear your corrections. When is the best time to ask for reviews?
It's like a couple of days.
Is it 2 days or 14 days?
Wait. So
Always.
the reviews, when you give them the reviews,
Oh.
that is when you're scheduling the final walkthrough. Same with the referrals, right? The referrals, the Rick Ruby close would be the week or 2 weeks
Oh,
after
gotcha.
closing. Name one of the elite realty values.
Honesty.
Really not on the right
integrity.
side. Honesty, integrity, quality customer
that
care,
goes.
right behind you. Professional development,
My glasses on.
You going up?
accountability. I'm so. Patient hustle focus. Yeah, those ones are good ones too. When do you have management review your offer?
Before sending to.
And
Before sending it to. Before sending it to.
Before any negotiations are done?
yep, C. Before you send it to your client, and then once all your negotiations are done, so we can double check you before you send it out in the world, and then before you send it to the loan officer. According to NAR, how many homes does the average buyer look at?
I don't know. I'd say 7. I'd say.
12.
I know. I wasn't. Yeah.
What's the average appraisal cost?
100 to 200.
2 to 4. Circle the tools that help you track your goals. What goal docs did we talk about yesterday? What goal sheets? The 411, yep, and the BAT doc, the business activity tracker. When is the 411 meeting? Wednesdays at 1, yes.
You just sent something out. Didn't you?
Yep, Wednesdays at 1. Yeah. We just changed it from 11 to 1. What is the best social media platform to use for real estate prospecting? Facebook.
Yeah, turn my thing on. I don't know if I know how to turn it on. Share thing.
I've known you for 6 years.
So,
He's never posted on Facebook.
all right. It's gonna be a new world. And remember, I'm here to help too. So as you're getting into it,
Right.
yes.
Now, like I said, I have a lot of groups. I mean, so I know people. I have a lot of friends, but I never put anything I just received.
He knows a lot.
Yeah. Now you're going to use it as a business. And that's what you remember. You're using Facebook as a business tool, right? So use it as a business, work it, and be consistent with it. And don't reshare. Always post as your own content. And when in doubt, go to my page and take my stuff. Like all of my stuff and all the Elite Realty page stuff, like all of that is for you guys to use. So take the picture, save it on your own phone or desktop, copy the print, and then paste it as your own original content. Facebook will only keep putting it in the feed if it's original content. If you just hit that share button, that doesn't go into the feed as well. That doesn't reach register. What should you put in the Oh, what should you put in the blank for close by date on the PA for a mortgage deal? You weren't here for this. So on the purchase agreement, when it says close by date, what are we putting there for a mortgage deal?
Not more than 45 days.
45 days from seller
Look at
acceptance.
that. Not
Look,
even here.
wasn't even here, I already know.
The rest of
45
us
days
are
from
like,
seller acceptance. And what do we put for a cash deal? That's not a question on here, but might as well read it.
14.
14 days from seller acceptance.
He has camera.
He bugged it when he came in for his interview, huh? If seller never lived in a home, can you just cross out the seller's disclosures and write seller never lived there? No. Who are the only two people that are exempt from seller's disclosures? Not a question on here, but we want to know.
Oh wait,
Isn't like the
Banks?
no
Banks and
the people that's doing it for
trusts.
oh, not even quick claim?
No. Trusts and banks are the only parties that don't have to. All right, it's 1 o'clock. I'm gonna give you guys a break real quick. And then I'm gonna give a very broad overview of listings, just so if you get a call for a listing or one of your friends wants to list, you kind of know how to navigate it.
I'm a little nervous right now. Somebody called me.
I know, that's why I want to give you a little bit of info so you can navigate, like, you know, a friend or family member wants to list with you. I'm gonna give you a little overview of it. It'll be about a 2-hour run through, and then we're gonna close by going out to a house and doing a little showing back and forth whole thing. Sound good? All right, cool. Take about 15 minutes.
Speaking of that, Andy did not.
Andy, did that or something?
Andy.
You know how to connect the TV on a small conference room and stuff? It says it's not connected to Wi-Fi and to either get a new network or to re-log in. And that part, I don't know how to do.
Oh, I don't know if they hooked up Chromecast. It was on an HDMI cord. There will be. There will be. Okay, so we'll clear out of
Did I
here.
give you one
and we'll
already?
do our training in the middle.
Came out good. Oh, that's Tristan's.
Okay.
Hey guys, let's move into this middle room. They're gonna do a buyer consult.
Okay. If I don't know if I can I?
I thought she was gonna do it.
Yeah,
No. She tried 10 times and ended up doing it all myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so send it to me. Oh my lord.
Somebody grabbed the snacks.
we're gonna. I know.
I made it all myself.
Anybody found that? Good job.
Do I want another coffee?
Okay.
Well, even
Did
that.
she ever show up like this?
I rescheduled Monday.
Okay.
This guy rescheduled from yesterday to today. Take your class and make this time.
Well, then he will probably be here. Find the most comfortable chair, my friend. You guys want those in there? Sure, yeah, you can send them in there. Do you have a receipt? I'll reimburse you for all the stuff you got.
This is all stuff, all the snacks, that's what Costco donated and stuff to me.
Oh,
I
okay.
have hundreds of it right now, so.
Okay.
The other stuff is just Dollar Tree stuff, it's not a big deal, but it's at least organized and we can not put containers and stuff out there, because those things are gigantic.
You're awesome.
The goal